Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another session of Tableau. And I am your trainer. My name is Abhidhamisa. And in this session, we're going to learn about, as you can see here, we're going to learn about scatter plots. We have learned about bar charts. We have created a bar chart using Tableau. And now we are going to create a scatter plot using Tableau. And here, let's just try to make this session interactive. Okay, I want you all to keep commenting when I am explaining. If you have any doubts, you can just let me know in the comment section, or if you think there's something I am missing out on, you can mention in the comment section. If you have any feedback, or if you want a particular topic that has to be explained quite elaborately, if I can, I would definitely put up another video or another session I would post, where you will get help with all the required information. There are some terminologies that not all of us are aware of, so I can, if you could just let me know if there is anything like that, I can definitely post a session with that, or all that information, right? So yeah, let's move ahead. The agenda of today's session is pretty simple. We are going to learn about scatterplot. What is scatterplot and how can you create scatterplot in Tableau? Let's also try to understand a few use cases of scatterplot. So I would definitely like you all to comment, where do you think scatterplots can be used? Some real-time use cases. Where do you use, or if you are already into work, or if you are studying, you can just let me know, where do you use scatterplot? And where do you think you can use if you don't, right? My name is Abhidhamita Begum. I am a technical trainer. I provide trainings on R, Python, and Tableau. I've been doing this for the past few years, 4 years now, and I give trainings on data science, machine learning, data visualization with Tableau, and everything related to data science. Now, yeah, that's about myself. Let's just move ahead. Coming to the topic of today, that is scatter plot. As you can see, this we have a scatter plot here. Okay, this is how a scatter plot looks like. And this scatter plot, the best part is it helps us create a line chart, which we will learn after this after this scatter plot session. I'll post a line graph, a session on line graph, right? Line charts or line graph, however you want to call it. So joining these lines, you'll create these dots. You'll be creating a line chart, right? So yeah, that's about it. Now try to let me explain you about scatter plot. Scatter plot, you can see scatter chart, scatter graph. They uses dots to represent values for two different numeric variables. Numeric variables, remember that. You have diameter, you have height. Okay, and how does this diameter, how does height increase based on this diameter, right? What is the relationship between diameter and height? You can also plot a graph. This is a very famous graph for scatter plot, where you will be having area on the x-axis and you will be having price on the y-axis. And here we are talking about land. So the land's area on x-axis and price on y-axis, right? So as this keeps increasing, the price also increase. Now, I want you all to let me know which is the dependent and which is independent variable here, right? So since scatter plots are helping us to understand the relationship between variables, okay, we can also know how spread is our data. We can also know if there are any outliers in the data. So who knows what is an outlier? An outlier is a value which is very unusual from the given values. So suppose if you have a data set, let me just name it as score. In that, in these scores, you have some 2, 3, 4, 6, 1 such values. But suddenly you have a value that is 35. This value is your outlier. Okay, as you can see, these are our points here, data points. But then you can see a point which is completely away from all of these. This is our outlier. An outlier does not have to be, the highest value. It could be the lowest as well. So suppose there are 99, 98, 97, 96 marks or scores, but suddenly there's a student who scores 4 marks. That is again an outlier, right? So that's how you define an outlier. And you can see in a scatter plot, you can understand if your data has any outliers also, right? So Okay, like I defined it. You can, it uses scatter plot uses to represent values for two different numeric variables. The position of each dot on the horizontal and vertical axis indicates values for an individual data point. Scatter plots, they are used to observe a relationship between variables. Now here, what is happening in this chart? Okay, let's try to understand what's actually happening here. Here, it is showing the diameters and heights for a sample of fictional trees. So this diameter and height is of some fictional trees. Okay, so here each dot represents a single tree, right? Every dot is representing a single tree, and each point's horizontal position indicates the tree's diameter, and the vertical presents the tree's height. Now, from this plot, we can see a generally tight positive correlation between a tree and height. So, what do you understand by this? We can also know the correlation between the variables with the help of a scatter chart. We can also observe an outlier, yes, that I already told you about, and a tree that has much larger diameter than others. This tree appears fairly short for its growth, so which might warrant further investigation, right? So this is how we try to interpret this scatter chart. Now I hope you have understood how do we interpret a scatter chart. Okay, now when should you use a scatter chart? So before I answer, I want you all to just, I would I can even pause for a while for 30 seconds or so. You can let me know where do you think you should be using scatter plot. When should you use a scatter plot? Now, before I complete writing this, I want you to answer me. When should you? I want my videos to be filled with comments so that I understand that, these sessions that I am taking are actually being helpful. People are watching and actually learning something from them. So that I can understand only if you have some doubts, right? Through doubts. So I want you all to post your doubts in the comment section so that I can reply to all of you. Okay, so now let's me answer that question for you. When do you use a scatter plot? Scatter plot, they are used to observe and show a relationship between the variables that I've already told you. Now the dots in a scatter plot not only report the value of individual data points but also pattern when taken as a whole. So you can see this pattern, they are increasing. They are in a what do you call it? This is actually called as positive linear because it's going up and it is showing the relationship between the variables. So that is why I'm calling it a positive linear. So that is why I can say that, even if looking at a pattern, it is going up and it forms a line. So that's also a way to look at the pattern. You can identify correlational relationships. Now, in these cases, what we want to know is we were given a particular horizontal value, what a good prediction would be for the vertical value. Now, we will often see the variable on the horizontal axis denoted as an independent variable, and on the variable vertical axis, the dependent variable, right? So, just write this down somewhere if you have to, if you tend to forget, if you do not write. So, on the horizontal axis, that is your x axis, you will write down your independent variable. And then on the vertical axis, we have our dependent variable. All right. Now, relationship between variables, they can be described in many ways. It can be positive, it can be negative, or it can be even a non-linear, right? So this is strong positive. Similarly, if you get something like this is strong negative. And if there is something like this, very spread points, they are not very correlational, but then it's giving you a pattern. So that will be your moderate negative. If the points are just spread, okay, with no pattern, then it is called as a non-linear or actually no relationship at all. They don't have any relationship at all, right? So scatter plot can be used for identifying other patterns in data. We can divide data points into groups based on how closely, sets of points cluster together. Scatter plots can also show if there are any unexpected gaps in the data and if there are any outlier points. So this can be useful if we want to segment the data into different parts, like in the development of user personas, right? Now, there could be some common issues when we are actually using a scatter plot. So when there are some pros, there have to be some cons of everything. So the scatter plot can have overplotting. When we have lots of data points to plot, this can run into the issue of overplotting. In this case, where data points overlap to a degree where we have difficulty seeing relationship between points and variables, and it can be difficult to tell how densely packed data points are when many of them are in a small area. So how would that be? It's almost like something like this. You're not able to make out if there are any points at all or there are just the lines. So that is our overplotting. Interpreting correlation as causation. So remember, this is something really important. You cannot interpret correlation as causation. Although this is not so much an issue with creating a scatter plot as it is an issue with its interpretation. Simply because we observe a relationship between two variables in scatter plot, it does not mean that changing in one variable are responsible for changes in the other two, right? So this gives rise to the common phrase in statistics that correlation does not imply causation. This is wrong. Correlation does not imply as causation. So for example, if you do not understand this line, it would be wrong to look at city statistics for the amount of green space they have and the number of crimes committed and conclude that one causes the other. That this can ignore the fact that larger cities with more people will tend to have more of both, and that they are simply correlated through that and other factors, not because of each other. Then further analysis to control or account on these problems can be taken care of. Now, different types of scatter plots that you can have are the first one is trend line, categorical third variable, and you can have a numeric third variable, highlight using annotations and colors. You can do all of these in a scatter plot. Now, the most important and the fun part of the session, we are going to do this in Tableau, right? So just open your Tableau. Where do I have Tableau? Right. So just open Tableau and select the data set that you want to choose. And I'm going to use Superstore US dataset only again. Right. So this is the Superstore US dataset. I have selected it. And now I'm going to take the sheet orders from it. Right. And then I'm going to go to the sheet where I'm starting to work. I've selected the dataset. These are my dimensions. These are the measures. Okay. And then these are the pills, these are marks, filters, pages. I'm sure you remember. And if you do not remember, I would suggest you to go through the previous videos where I have given an introduction of Tableau environment. So you understand what are each of these, right? So now let's just start and let's just take some values in columns and rows. So we'll just take this quantity ordered new and we'll put them in columns. And then we'll take sales. Maybe we can take the sales of those quantities and put it in the rows so that we can see the relationship. Now, a very important step. These measures, why are they given here? You can see it's taken as sum. This is also taken as sum. So we do not want sum. We don't want aggregate measures. So we want it this way, right? So you have the complete scatter plot over here. Now what you can do, if you want to color these, you can just take this category. Let's just take the subcategory and put it into colors. You can see a lot of colors here, and you can see that all of these have you can see the legend also on the right side. The next part is what you can do. You can also change the shapes. Do you know that? You can see the shapes option here. You can take the category and put it into the shape. See, you can see different shapes as well. So the furniture is circle, office supplies is a square, and technology is plus. And these are all the products that you have. So this is how we have created our scatter plot, right? So you can just see here in this, you can see you do not need many dimensions. If you have dimensions, that's good, but you need at least two measures to create a scatter plot. I hope you are able to understand the show me tab here. If you have any doubts regarding that, you can also feel free to comment. Now that's how we have created a scatter plot, and I am sure you are definitely able to see that we have some outliers, right? I mean, the products that are being sold more than any other product. You can see how dense it's here while it's not here over here. So these are outliers, you can see how correlated they are over here. But what is the pattern? Can you see any pattern over here? So just taking these product subcategories, categories, this will not help. Probably if we want to see, we will have to just remove it from here. And let's just try it something if we can do. Okay, so you can see that this has created three different categories. So this is showing the sales for. Now this looks much better based on their categories. We have divided them into three different scatter plots, and this is the quantity order new and how are the sales, right? So that's about it, and we have outliers in all of these categories. So yeah, that's how you create a scatter plot. And let's just so yeah, now this is the time where you can ask me if you have any doubts. Just put down in the comment section and I'll answer you. So I hope all of these you are able to understand whatever I have explained. And let's just revise what did we learn. We understood what is a scatter plot, what are the pros and cons, where can it be used, what are the different use cases, and finally we created a scatter plot using Tableau. Right? So thank you very much for being with me throughout the session. Have a great day. Happy learning.